So between the first-time home buyer market, the first-time seller market, and the attempting the rent-to-home market, which do you think breaks in 2024 and allows for more opportunity? Do you think first-time home buyers get a shot at buying? Do you think sellers get their opportunity to upgrade, relocate easily or more easily? Or do you think that the rental market, slows down because we get so many rentals that hit the market that, it becomes way more affordable to actually get into a rental property?
I think it would probably be the best for the sellers at this point, because if, let's say the rates do come down to X amount, those golden handcuffs, I feel like they would be able to say, okay, let's make our jump. Like, yes, we're not at 2 or 3%, but we're not at 8%. So let's just make the move, because we won't see when the next time this is going to get any better, and we can't afford to live here any longer. Rentals, I feel like landlords are just insanely stingy right now with the amount of money that they feel entitled to. I mean, I have a buyer right now that their landlord, once they get out, he's raising it. I think they pay like $900 a month. And now, I mean, they got it good, but now he's raising it to $3,200.
Whoa.
Yes. And they said it's worth it where they're at. They're at a golf course, like really nice home. It's worth, but he is like, that's a huge jump. And God forbid, if we weren't able to find this house, we would have to pay month to month, and we would have to pay that price. And so I got him in when I did, but
to buy a property.
It was hard. It was like, it's just the entitlement. And I've seen that more with people who want to rent their homes. They're thinking, oh, well, I can rent for $2,600, and because I know that people need homes and this, that, and the other. And it's sad.
Doesn't that stink though? Because we sit back and we're blaming places like BlackRock and big money and big companies for all the issues that are going on. But a lot of our supply issue is homeowners not willing to sell because they have such a low mortgage payment. And a lot of new landlords that are just now becoming this because, oh my gosh, I have all this equity.
They have all this equity, but they're also they're probably pinching pennies too, because we're all struggling.
And so they're charging more per month because they know they can get it, because they're going to get 100 applications.
Yep.
And we're digging ourselves into deeper holes because our own people, fellow homeowners, are charging more per month for a rental, listing their properties for higher price points than the neighborhoods have ever seen, and getting it a lot of times. So where do you see 2024 ending? Do you see more of the same? Do you see breaks in the price, increasing in the price? I mean, we just went over, we saw a 10% rise in Kent County, a little less than that in Newcastle, but still an increase nonetheless. And then Sussex County remained the same, even down a little bit, and depending on which numbers you include. So
I feel like it's probably going to be the same at the end of the day. I would love for them to decrease, but if they're going to do these, if they're going to bring down the rates more, then the home prices are probably going to still equal out at the end of the day.
I hear you. So even if we have waning demand, if demand increases because rates decrease, then prices
are just going to go up. I mean, I would love the rates to go higher so that homes can sit and prices can come down. And even if that does happen,
that's a sick point of view, though. I get it.
It sucks, but like I've had that conversation. Like I would love for rates to sit at the 8s and even go up to 9s.
There's a lot of people who would smack you in the face for saying that,
and that's fine. I get it, but at the same time, it's like if you expect home prices to sit where they're at right now, and for the rates to drop, it's just going to go even worse than what it's at.
I'll be honest with you. Back last year, I was really hoping for 10%. I was really hoping for 10% rates. And then January hit and we went from like teetering at 7.5 and it's going to keep going to all the way down to 6.5. And then the world blew up for a second. And I was so disappointed because I thought we were at that breaking point where if we did keep going 8, 9, let's hit 10% and just freeze the market, just completely stagnated across the country, that would have happened. And I think we would have sped run ourselves into sellers not being able to afford what they were doing. So because we lowered the interest rate too early, I believe we got too many people back into the market, back into homes, and now we're doing it all again. But I feel like once again, if we go through with lowering the mortgage rates again, we're just going to see price points continue to go up, even if we do it slowly.
Yeah.
Because slowly should still have us in the 5.9 to 6.25 range by the end of the year. And that's low in comparison to what we've seen.
It's definitely a pro and con, because for my sellers that I have these conversations with, they obviously want the highest, the best, the most money. and want their homes to be sold so quickly. But for the buyer's sake, it's just, okay, it's one of those, yeah, it's hard. I don't know. I go back and forth on it. But I think realistically, it'd probably be around the same.
That makes sense.
There's going to be shifts, but when you look at the numbers for the year, it's probably going to be about the same. When I first started trying to buy a home, I had to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
And I was so mad because I was like, why do I have to sacrifice what little bit of life I have to me for enjoyment to get into a shitty home?
Let's do the math. Just be honest with me. So how often, you and Selena both, how often in the morning would you get like an energy drink or a coffee? Like an energy drink like you just did at Wawa this morning? Once a week. Okay. DoorDash. Got it. So not super common. But what about lunches, DoorDashes, things for dinner? What are you guys eating for dinner? You guys ordering food in? You guys cooking food there? Once a week. Got you. Well, that's the type of stuff I would put on the document and like look at your bank statement and see what am I spending to see, like you said, is it even worth like tightening down on the things we enjoy doing?
Yeah,
because even if we did, would it get us there? Again, back to the $50 analogy. I think more people spend frivolously $50 a day than we think.
Oh,
I think a lot of people do.
And it adds up so fast.
But a lot of people are doing that. I mean, I would largely probably put like 80% of the median population in that category that are dropping $5 at the gas station to get the drink, that are then spending the $4 on that app per month. And there's 7 of those that exist on their phone. And there's 4 subscriptions of this thing on TV and they only watch 1. And they're door dashing 3 times, 4 times a week. And they're paying the $27 extra in fees every week. If it does add up to like, hey, $1,000, $1,500 a month. And if you times that by 12, you now have a down payment on a house.
But like,
that's over 12.
Like if
Yeah, it's their own fault. Absolutely. It's a lack of financial intelligence for sure. Which is why I'm saying you asked the question, what should I do? I say everybody should know their finances backwards and forwards, just like you're running your life like a business. Yeah. You should have a life P&L. Any number that's track grows because you're putting it in the front of your brain. You're actively thinking about, like, if you had a P&L sheet that you and your significant other literally review once a month on the TV, you guys are both going to be actively thinking about the 2 columns you guys argued about or brought to each other's attention. Like, shit, we spent $800 at Target last week. Like, that's crazy.
Literally Tyler and I and we order food or go out and this, that, and the other. Like, he gets his 2 energy drinks in the morning for work for the whole day. And then I just got a notification, like he just went to Wawa for food. It's like the little thing, but like it adds up.
But if that's $35 a day, that's $1,000 a month.
Yes.
And that's a humongous chunk.
Yes.
And a lot of households do that. Lots of households do that. So to answer the question would be just like analyze and do the math. If I did sacrifice, cut it all down, would we get to our goal? Or do we need to put this goal to the side because even if we did, we wouldn't even be making progress. It's too big of a hill to push this boulder up. We need to just wait until it's a better situation to buy or whatever. And in the meantime, save what you can. And yeah, maybe it is $10 a day. That's $300 a month. That equals $1,200 a quarter. And by the end of the year, you are at a point where you have a partial amount of down payment, and maybe it's a market where it's better. The last thing that I think people need to do, and I think more and more people are doing, is they're going to wait to get ready when times are good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And when now is the time to get ready, when things are shit. Because everyone else is, which sucks too, because like part of the reason things are shit is because things are expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, save your money. I'm like, how? Gas is $80, fill my tank. But yeah, you have 7 subscriptions on your television.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, what people choose to be financially astute about is not hilarious, but it's.
Sometimes you don't think about it until it's time to think about it. And then you're like, oh my goodness, like, what am I doing? And then I feel bad for the people who are tightening everything. They're not spending money ordering out. They're not drinking the Starbucks. They're not doing this, that, and the other, and are still struggling.
Yeah, and if you do cut everything and you're still not making any headway, I mean, you got to address your life position more so than the math of it all. You got to see, like, okay, maybe one of us needs a better job.
I was going to say, both my husband and I changed career paths. So it was one of those things, like, it sucked. I missed healthcare. I loved healthcare. I wasn't paying the bills. And same with my husband. Like,
isn't that crazy? You're in the business of keeping other humans alive, and that wasn't paying the bills.
Yep.
And the people that are in the business of teaching our kids how to be adults also aren't paying the bills. And the people that are working to be in emergency services in our military aren't paying the like.
Disgusting.
You talk about essentials in life, like our essential duties as Americans are having to struggle.
Yep. I can't tell you how many nurses or anyone in the medical field that have seen the transition after I left the field have been in my DM saying, hey, like how much do you really like it? Because we're all thinking about getting out. We're so miserable because they're in the same position. They can't afford anything. And that's a shame. I mean, my close friend, she's going back to school because she has an amazing degree, an amazing career path in nursing, and still cannot afford her bills. So now she's going back to school, accruing more debt just to get herself somewhat financially better to be able to buy at one point in time in her life.
It's the American dream.
We love it.
Debt. And they're getting better at giving us more of it.
So sad.
Military, police, teachers. I mean, you go down the line of all the like essential personnel, correctional officers, teachers, state workers, like all the people that are making our life what it is, keeping us in this free country, whatever environment, are all struggling. Like it terrifies me that a police officer who's a client or was going to be a client of mine couldn't afford a basic property, and his wife made good money too. Mm-hmm. This guy, I don't want him financially stressed. I don't want him thinking, well, how am I going to pay my bills? I want him focused on police. Like this is all I got to worry about. Like if you're going into a fire, I want you focused on the fire. Like I don't want you worrying like, how am I going to pay my kid's school bill next month? That's terrifying that more and more people are falling in that category.
So what do you think needs to happen in order for this to change?
I think Jerome Powell's idea of what to do is keep buying power low long enough for income to catch up. Income's the problem. Got to make more money. People need to make more money, but at scale. Mm-hmm. So when everybody needs to make more money, there's a problem. And things like the COVID checks, though things were tight then, I think we did put a bandage on a situation because most people actually didn't need that money. No. A lot of people, I'll be frank, probably didn't need that money. Now, there were definitely people that needed that money. There were absolutely people that lived and died off of like the $36,000 to $5,000 they got in total, and that kept them breathing, kept them in a situation. That's who it was for. But there were a lot of people who that was club money. There's a lot of people that was the next car, the next whatever, the video games, the going out, the vacation. It was extra frivolous spending. And I think during a 2-year period where people could have battened down the hatches and gotten into that state of mind of keeping my money together and with me and having better financial decisions being made, maybe we're in a better situation now. But I think at some point we got to bite the bullet. We gave away a lot of money. People are spending more money than they've ever spent while savings accounts are at an all-time low on average. It doesn't really make much sense. And frankly, Gen Zs and millennials are running it. They're leading the charge in extracurricular spending in comparison to other generations. And I think a lot of that has to do with the internet and the ability to buy more things at all times. And there's more ads asking you to spend more money at all times. But the answer is really more income. And if you're in a situation where you don't make enough money, you probably got to find a way to make more money. Yeah. Which is a sucky answer. It's a sucky answer. And let's play the other side of that too. Okay. Say I do get the extra money. Now it's independent contractor money. Mm-hmm. Now I got to do this for 2 years consistently. And I got to do it while I keep my other job. That's my option. That's my other option. I start doing OnlyFans things while keeping my 40 to 50 hour a week job. Like I have a friend right now who is working for UPS. He's clocking in 55 mandatory hours during these holidays. And still like just making decent money.
It's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. We're in a weird world right now.
I feel like there's a lot of online jobs that are.
Yeah, that's a weird world. I'll tell you one thing is your pay is always going to be directly in correlation with the value you're presenting. And if you're in a scenario where nurses aren't getting paid enough, there's probably too many nurses because it's being spread out too thin.
Which is crazy because I feel like there's not enough. But I will say, like, the travel nurses make so much more than what they really need. Like
that's fair, but that's again for the hospital's sake. They're solving a big problem for those hospitals because they're losing nurses. So they're willing to pay the premium, which doesn't make sense to me. Why not just pay the nurses more that you have rather than pay extra for the travel nurses to come in? I'm not in the medical field. I don't have the answer to that question. There has to be one because every hospital is doing it. But you're right. I don't know. When it comes to what jobs could you search for in 2024 that would yield you more income than maybe what you're making right now at your current job, there's so many opportunities online that it's honestly become diluted. with so many people trying to make money online, I believe that the per month allocation per person is lowering constantly.
Yeah.
Whether it be the popular ones like OnlyFans or a TikTok shop to niche things like running an e-commerce platform with some form of Shopify attachment, or doing online yoga, or even like you said, online medical consulting. Like there's room for talent, for niche down skills that bring value to whatever they're doing. But the problem is there's a lot of people who don't bring value. There's a lot of people who don't bring value that frankly make more money than they probably should right now because they bring no value to society.
Yeah.
And that takes away from the people that maybe do a little bit.
Yeah.
It kind of, life always balances itself out. And I think there's a lot of talented people out there that are stuck at a job that has nothing to do with their talents or passions. And that is a little bit on them, but a lot to do on the fact that things are tight and there's no other real option. But I think there's a lot of people out there that do kind of sit on their hands and like to blame the government a bit instead of getting up and doing something about it. I think there's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's definitely blame to be placed all around. But frankly, as a fellow taxpayer, I would expect the government to have assisted a bit more in creating scenarios that are more plausible for younger people to get into a home right now, because everything we're talking about is above and beyond what anyone else in prior generations had to do.
Do you think there's any sort of plan or something that the government could do to help the first-time home buyers or anyone that's like just strapped in? And
Yes, I think there's 3 immediate things that the government could do. One, I think they could do a rent to mortgage match program, where is if they paid, their rent, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, there'd be logistics around it. Let's say their payment was $2,500 a month, they would get approved for the principal and interest payment of $2,500 a month for their mortgage. Of course, taxes, insurance for that too. Number 2 is we should ban for 45 days any type of purchase of any single family property by an LLC or business.
please.
First 45 days on the market, only residential property can be bought by residential families, individual buyers.
That would be amazing.
Non-companies. And then the third one, I would like to put a fee on any purchase that's made by an investor or LLC, big company, big business, even mom and pops, 5, 6, 7 properties. They're not changing the market too drastically, but there should be a fee. I suggest 10% of the purchase price, could be lower, but that fee one time at the closing table when it's not your primary residence goes into a fund. All of that goes into a fund that is used toward first-time home buyer closing costs and down payment assistance. And that's how the fund would be allocated. I think the government could step in and do either of those 3 things and more, but for one reason or another, providing more inventory at a lower price point or lower square footage could also solve the problem. I think there's a lot of things that could solve problems, but maybe there's bigger fish to fry or bigger corruption to get involved in. I'm not too sure. I'm not there.
Yeah. No, I love those. Those are great.
Yeah, I've stood on those. I think immediately either of those 3 could make a shift in the market.
Yeah.
There's always new issues that would
Especially the
arise with any
LLC.
solution, but
I mean, especially the LLC, because I like those first-time home buyer prices.
Canada did it.
Canada
did it. Canada has issues like they always do, and they're just governments being. We're not in Canada. I'm not gonna talk about Canada, but their specific housing market, they do have something that says, "Hey, LLCs, companies, you cannot purchase this for a certain amount of days."
That's so smart.
It is. I know why. It's because we're a capitalist society and we live off of, the rich get richer, the poor get poor. It's in the Bible. So that's.
Where do you see this next year going? Like, do you see that the middle class is just going to keep disappearing? Or do you think that there's some hope?
I want to pull up a video that I made in 2018. I don't know where it is. And one day I hope I find it, where the whole topic was my thought process on the next 10 years, the middle class completely disappears. And nobody in 2018 saw COVID happening, but I definitely think COVID helped push it along. Mm-hmm. Because it's slowly dissipating to this world where you kind of have to choose which side you're going to be on, because it's becoming smaller and smaller, whatever's considered middle class. Because if I can't own a home in the middle class, which statistically I can't right now, middle class can't own a home financially, can't get pre-approved for a mortgage in 2023, is that really middle class then? So the average doesn't get to live in a home? That seems odd to me. So what do you even consider the middle class would be my first thought process to that question. And the second thing I would put to that is, if we go to a world where the middle class slowly disappears, that's a very strong historical sign of the government being able to come in and take control and have more power by offering a solution. Because your middle class is your largest group of population in most countries. And if you begin to threaten that largest piece, you start to get unrest. And so if you begin to get civil unrest, you get revolution like you got in France. So if you take that and you then offer solutions that are government tied and basically give them more control, give them, people talk about like the Neuralink in the brain and the mark of the beast thing in the wrist, like that's the type of stuff that now a government can walk in and provide as a solution, but ultimately gives them more control. And that's how you get socialism, and that's how you get dictatorship. And I think a lot of people worry about, if you dismantle this middle class, well, okay, most people are going to be poor and all the rich want to get richer. So let's just kind of make as much money and have as much control as we can, because once you have all the money, what else do you want? You want power. So I think it's a scary thing to think the middle class disappears, but the scariest thing about it is I don't think the government really has any reason why they wouldn't want that to happen.